What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel, and today I'm going to be going over the new Obsession movie that came out a few weeks ago. And today I'm here to give some thoughts on it, and how I feel like it connects to bigger issues in society and is just a reflection of society as a whole. First, I want to say the movie itself is pretty good, but I think there's a deeper message in the movie that people are overlooking, which is the idea of like how it correlates with like the male fantasy and like the male loneliness epidemic. So the story, basically, for whoever hasn't watched the movie, is basically this awkward, lonely, like love deprived guy who takes some wish and uses it to get his girl, or like his crush, to like love him like a lot, and basically she becomes like extremely obsessive, and yeah, that's becomes like a horror movie. So honestly, this is like a really common fantasy with a lot of guys, me included. But it's because of our reality, right? Because the main character is someone a lot of people can relate to. He's just your average guy rotting in his room, not doing anything. Women just ignore him, or he simps for some girls who don't care about him. So that's why we relate to him so much, and also another reason why we share the same desire that he does. So another reason why this fantasy is so like strong, because you'd be like, why would you want someone who's like a maniac and like insane over you? But the thing is, a lot of men are just so deprived of like affection and like love because of the modern day, and how the dating market works, with like hypergamy and like dating apps just being rigged for the top 20% of men, like the chads. So like the average guy gets ignored, or like he just gets used for like some beta bucks. And yeah, so when you get a bunch of guys who are like lonely, not desired, not liked, and ignored, it becomes like female obsession, or like having a girl who's obsessed with you. That's like something really appealing to us. So I guess, yeah, that's another reason why we got drawn into it. And loneliness hits us harder, right? Because women get more attention than men. Like, women don't suffer from loneliness as much as we do. So that's what makes something like yandere, or like a woman who's extremely obsessed with you, so appealing to us. Another reason why we find the intensity, right, of like a yandere who's like obsessive, or like a girl who's obsessive, right? We find it so appealing also because of just how loyalty has become like such a rare thing nowadays. Among everyone, cheating has become really common, and like hookups and like hookup culture in general, right? So in like even branch swinging, right? Because like women, they just like to swing from one guy to the next, and they'll probably get with some like average dude for like a few weeks or like a month or even a few months until someone better comes along who they're actually into. So that's another reason why obsessive women are so appealing to us, because we get loyalty, we get affection, and we get basically unconditional love, which is what we don't really get with like most women nowadays. We're used to performing or putting on an act, or having money, or just having some traits that appeal to them, right, to keep them with us temporarily. That's for why it's appealing to us, right? And honestly, you can see this like with after a movie came out, a lot of people, I'll put some examples up on screen right now, a lot of people genuinely like enjoy this fantasy. A lot of people dream about this. This has been a really common fantasy, and it's just a byproduct of the male loneliness epidemic, because you don't see normies like wishing for this stuff. You don't see like the average guy wanting this. I mean, the average guy is into this now, but like the average Chad does not have yandere fantasies or like obsessive woman fantasies. It's different because he's used to getting a lot of attention, and women don't even have these types of fantasies either for the most part, except for like a small minority, because they're used to attention. So it's always the lonely, deprived like chuds who are into this. So, which is the majority of men nowadays. That's another like really sad type of thing to observe, right? Nowadays, we have so many men just being involuntarily celibate or just being ignored by women because they don't meet the standard. And that just keeps rising each year as the dating apps become more used. And, whoever is going to cope and say, dating apps aren't real life, bro, just go outside. Well, 70% of relationships, I think. Yeah, I'll put the stat on the screen right now. But 70% or close to that of current relationships nowadays happen online and start online. So at this point, online is real life. So anyone coping with that needs to get out of here. But yeah, that's the reason why we also this is caused by it. So in general, I feel like this movie goes way deeper than just, horror movie. It goes into why some men genuinely find this appealing, and now you can see it's become super successful as a movie because the plot is engaging, and a lot of men have viewed this movie, including me. I found it fun. I found it enjoyable because it's something it taps into a fantasy of mine. One of my fantasies, at least. One of a shared fantasy between a lot of men as well. And yeah, this archetype of woman is extremely appealing is because men are also so into full undying loyalty or possession of being possessed or owned or being part of a woman's life permanently, because nowadays obviously most relationships don't last long. So this is another reason why we are into this so much. Honestly, I've seen a lot of people nowadays while this movie's come out, because now there's more arguments coming out about are some men into this, and now the normies and other people feminists and stuff commenting negatively about our fantasies now, which they created, by the way. Because when they created hookup culture and demonized marriage and demonized masculinity, right? That created this crisis where lots of men get ignored by women now because of hypergamy and all this other stuff. So obviously we're gonna start going for the extreme stuff where the girl is fully obsessed with us and willing to do anything for us, because normal version just doesn't give us what we want. It doesn't make us feel wanted enough, and it doesn't last long enough. So these feminists, right, they created the reality we live in right now, and then they're complaining why we have specific fantasies for our actual desires, which have not been fulfilled in any meaningful way by society nowadays, right? Yeah, that's just what happens when our society looks like this, when we're just so filled with hookup culture and all this other stuff, which has ruined relationships nowadays, to the point where now we fantasize, a lot of men fantasize about a toxic relationship, arguably, where the girl is fully obsessive and quite literally would kill for you. So I think that would say a lot about our current state and just how bad the male loneliness epidemic actually is. And obviously we're gonna have a lot of people who say, oh well, the male loneliness epidemic is self-inflicted and men just need to improve and they're not entitled to attention from women. Well, to that I say anyone trying to deny the male loneliness epidemic is just stupid. You're telling me that men being left out of the dating market is actually their fault, not that women are hypergamous and seeking chads out nowadays? That doesn't make sense. And even the stats absolutely destroy the argument that men aren't more lonely than they've ever been, and for reasons that contradict what women say or what feminists say or whatever. Oh, their personalities are bad or their misogyny is showing. Bro, you're telling me that women can detect your misogyny, but a Chad can say the exact same thing and somehow that just, jams their radar? Bro, I can't take that seriously. It's just sad, bro. That's all I can really say about that. It's just really sad what it's come down to nowadays, where even men being lonely is getting slandered as their own fault when it's clearly not. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap up everything I said. So basically, the movie is just a reflection of the male desires that have been created by our modern society, because I doubt any man back then was really into having an extremely obsessive woman, except for a small minority. But now it's a loud minority or a growing minority, right? So obviously this fantasy is just a byproduct of hypergamy and like male loneliness epidemic and like just men not getting enough desire and like affection and loyalty that they deserve. A lot of these men put in a lot of effort and then they get pushed away. So yeah, that's what creates these extreme obsessions and like extreme fantasies, because men aren't getting enough stimulus from like normal healthy relationships. Like they just don't get that, right? So that's why, you know, movies like this tap into like our missing desire and like they fill in that gap. So yeah, overall, this movie is really good. I suggest y'all watch it and, you know, see if you see like the parallels that I'm mentioning right now. If you guys like the video, it would really help me out if you guys subscribe. And I will be posting more stuff like this on whatever you guys want me to post. Just write it down in the comments what you'd like to see next. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.